Well, hello, 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 hello. Yes, it's a little bit slightly different beginning than normal, but we live in different times as well. No fancy things, what this is all about, and stuff like that. No subscribe. You can always subscribe, of course, if you want to, but it's just a special episode of The Place. Welcome here, which are at the place. And now, why is it special? I think that hardly needs any introduction, so to speak. I was planning actually, to be honest, to do a full blown celebration because it's like the 200 number 200 episode of Tell the Everyday Life Lesson. But I didn't think it was very appropriate to in these times to do a big celebration. Um, but I do want to spend some time of what's going on in the world. Everyone is doing that, and maybe there is something that I can do here as well. So that's what it's all about. Now, if you have missed this coming thing, and I mean that a little bit cynical, but the world is in shock of what's happening in the Ukraine, or in Ukraine. You don't have to say the Ukraine, but it's Ukraine, because they are in war with their neighbor country, Russia. And there is a lot of opinions going around, and most of us, at least in the Western world, we are all agreeing that, something really bad is going on, and that the people of the Ukraine are under tremendous, how to say that, turmoil and what have you not. And that's what we're going to talk about. What is that doing then to us people, to normal people who actually can only follow the news? And what is the news that we need to follow? And is there something that we can do? Should we do something? Should we not do something? And what will that do to our mental health? And how can we actually, decide what position we have in the current situation? Yeah, so there's a lot of questions to answer. Like I said, today I will skip all the fancy slides and all that kind of stuff. The question that I try to answer a little bit, is there room at this time to express our personal feelings if we get some anxiety and maybe other things because of the very, uncertain times we live in? Right, and there is talk about World War III. There is, talk about doing protest marches, all that kind of things. Do we have a common enemy? Is it only one man? Is it maybe only Putin who is the? So what is all that? Now, obviously, I don't have an answer to all these questions. I do have an opinion, and in a couple of areas, I hope I can deliver. Maybe some help and some support here, right? So the question I ask myself, is it actually appropriate? Is it actually a good time and place to express my personal worries and maybe anxiety and fears that we have from the current situation? Is that not appropriate because of what the people are going through? If I do this now from Dallas, and if you live in Europe, it's a little bit closer. But is it appropriate to really say, man, I feel really anxious, I have a lot of fear coming on, I need some help, right? I need some help. Is that appropriate to do that right now? That's the first thing that I want to answer, because I want to get that out of the way. Because a lot of people, and if I'll only think about the people that are around me, who've expressed, of course, they express their horror, their unbelief that what's going on, but the effect of the threat alone of a war is tremendous for a lot of people. People who already have experienced some post-traumatic stress, they are actually even triggered more. So veterans, other people who lived maybe 9/11 in New York. If maybe you are someone who lived in a war zone or still do. All these things, they add up, and they could cause a high level of anxiety, all the way up to severe mental health problems. Now, In this time, you might not want to say, like, hey, I need help because I have so much anxiety and fear about what's going on in Russia, in the Ukraine. I'm saying again, it's not the Ukraine, it's Ukraine. Um, and I personally would feel very, hesitant to say that because it feels like almost inappropriate, right? If you see the pictures and if you see, you know, what's coming out of that country and how much people suffer. People actually died. They live maybe in a city that is in rubbles, and then I would come in and saying, "Hey, I have a lot of anxiety because of the threat, which is maybe not even real. Maybe the U.S. will never be invaded, and but the point of the matter is that is for most people who are a little bit in the field that I am in, an immediately worry that causes a tremendous amount of health problems for people around the world. And I think that is, let me check a couple of things because I just want to know if the live audience, I don't see anyone reacting. So I assume yes, yes, that's with live is what it is. You have to see if you are really live, and I didn't see any normal. I see always kind of little comments. Just wave to me. Give me a comment if you are listening to me so that I know everything is online as well. Yes, we can keep it a little bit light if we want to as well. But yeah, so that was my first question that I had. So a lot of people guaranteed will get into mental issues, and it could be light anxiety. It could actually be triggers of past traumatic stress that they have because maybe what they have been through, like I said, maybe you lived in New York when you were through 9/11 or at other places, maybe you're a war veteran. Thank you for your service if you were. It could be all kind of things. And is there a good time now to address that? Well, it feels very inappropriate to make that publicly, but this is my advice to you. It doesn't really matter. Even if you didn't go through anything of this, even if you just hugely disturbed by the news that is going on, right? And you feel anxiety coming up, there's nothing wrong to do something about it. And if you need some help with that, you can ask. There are, I think I saw some therapists already, posting that they would give their service for free in this time if people get, in problems. Um, I, for one, am a coach, so I'm not a therapist, but I'm a coach, and I certainly, and everything that I do and can help you and support you with this, I would certainly lend my services to you all as well. Right? So that's one thing. But that's maybe a really big step, right? To go to someone else, to go to a professional. There are many things actually that you can do with yourself and your family that actually helps you in more than only the situation of, lowering your anxiety and stress levels around this. So my advice, immediately, out of the gate, is say don't wait with it. Just acknowledge that you have that fear, and who doesn't, right? But everyone deals different with fear, right? So that doesn't make you better or worse if you are easier to deal with fear and can see it a little bit more pragmatic. The mental problems can come in later. So this advice might be still good for you too. I just would say don't wait with it at all, right? So you might have family in the areas that are affected, and my best friend, she has family in that area, and logically, that that anxiety level on people who have family, and I would not even know how that would feel. By the way, if my direct family live in one of the cities in Ukraine, I would not know how that would feel. I would not know how it feels if someone's life is under threat um, by what's going on there, and I can only imagine what it can do to your health and specifically your mental health. Right. So my advice to you all: first of all, I think of you and be with you, but I also would not only lend my services if I can, but I definitely think that you probably should also immediately, take and do something to lower that stress and anxiety level. And it's fortunately not that complicated to, for the lack of better words, nip it in the bud. But if it gets severe, do, even if it's not a free service, do be not ashamed to reach out to a professional, even if you have to pay for it. Find a good therapist, talk about it in groups as well, because it is probably one of the things that we will see in the near future, which could cause a great problem in society, not only in the war zones, right, but throughout the world, is this high level of anxiety. So better be front of it. Plus, if you deal with that, you probably are more likely to be better in giving service to other people if you can. Now, and that bridge me to the other thing. Is there something that you can do in this situation? Now, I often think like, oh, I'm live here in Dallas. What can I do? But then I see all these messages, and I live and read a lot about the dance world, and it's heart lifting to see how creative people are to at least, offer some help. Whether it's helpful, I don't know, but I think it's incredible. I saw some top dancers who said, we live in Finland. We drive with two personal cars to the border, and we pick up a family of 12 if that's necessary. Would that change the war in Russia and Ukraine? No, obviously not. But it's hard lifting as well. I saw ex world champions and Blackpool champions. It doesn't mean anything to you, that's okay. But I saw them offering their house if you can come out of Ukraine and need some housing. Other people offer that too. Um, do I all agree with what people offer? Doesn't really matter. It came from a good heart. I see veterans offering their help and wanted to go and fight in Ukraine. I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do, but if that's what you believe you need to do, maybe you need to do that too, right? What I do see is that there's an incredible, personal interest in helping people in Ukraine. Typically, we think about money very quickly, but you see that the effect that it can have, at least on normal people morale, to do these things like offering your house, taking your personal car. I mean, from Dallas that would be impossible, but if you live in Finland or Poland, maybe that's not. And you pick up a family who is in need, or maybe you drop off some goods. Maybe it's a drop in the bucket altogether, but it does help, and it does help, strangely enough. It might not always help the people in Ukraine, but it helps us to at least get a better feeling of what's going on in the world. And that's another step that you can take is, it is often the fear that we have comes from the fact that we don't know. There's an uncertainty. We cannot do anything. Sometimes we don't need to do anything, but the fact that you try to be creative to see what you can do, is that good? Is that good English? Alleviate, it helps to overcome not only your fear, but it lowers down your anxiety. So it gives you back something in control. Now, don't make it artificial, right? If you don't feel or compelled to help or do something, but you see, not only I think that's the really beautiful thing in the world if people, just the normal people, help each other, right? And not only look at the politicians or the military. We can do something, and maybe it's nothing. Maybe it is that drop in the bucket that I said, but it lifted my heart when I saw these two amazing dancers just saying, "Hey, we drive to the border of Ukraine and we pick up a family of 12 if they are there and need some help." Maybe that's crazy. I don't know if that's crazy. And then I saw this top couple. They did it on Facebook, and there are more people that offered help than I can actually see on Facebook. But I saw Ricardo and Julia, it's top couple in the world, said, you can use my house in Italy. I think, maybe that's not a very realistic thing to do. But do you see that helps, right? It doesn't only help for the people that they help, but it also brings down your anxiety level. Does that sounds maybe a little bit selfish that you say, hey man, I'm concentrating on lowering my own anxiety level. I don't think it is, because the impact, if you keep going with anxiety, is so huge on your family and maybe the later service that you want to offer, that it's better to address it right now. And you can connect the dots. You can say, hey, now, if that's not in you, don't feel bad about it. If you say, that's not me. I don't know what to do. I have so much anxiety. I don't know what to do with it. Then I can give you a couple of things that you could do, right? Some things that are, almost, it feels almost a little bit trivial and silly to talk about it right now, but keep meditating if you do that. That helps a lot, right? Keep exercising, moving your body, is really good to overcome fear and anxiety. you know be intimate with the people around you, right? Find the love. I mean, love overcomes everything, and it's actually true. Know that there's still also really good things in the world. Sometimes you just need to go on with the daily things in life, not to be naive and not to close your eyes for what's going on in life. I'm a dance teacher. I know, as dance teachers, we give a lot of joy to people in the dance classes and on the dance floor at the moment when they actually need it. There is a lot of anxiety out there. People need to be a little bit distracted from these tremendous, you know, bad news that is out there. So, yeah, after the first day I heard there was a war and I had to teach the next day, I think, man, what's the point of all this? Right? Why would I go to a dance class and teach someone a cha cha cha? You know, if you're from the Netherlands, we would say lekker important, lekker belangrijk. Well, it is important actually, because what I saw is that those people who coming to my dance class had a lot of joy. And maybe it's only a joy for an hour or 2 hours, and maybe it is a person that actually doesn't care about what's going on in the world and just want to dance, but most of the people are. And it gives them at least that hour of distraction. So for a big part, we need to, if you don't live in a war zone, you need to go back to work and talk about that. So that's an important thing to do. Not that far fetched, right? So I said a couple of things, and I probably repeat it. If you immediately feel that your anxiety levels and your triggering of past stress disorder is, through the roof, find immediately help. Don't be ashamed, because thinking that maybe other people need more help than you somewhere else in the world doesn't make you better. Even if it's true that the people in the Ukraine have by far more stress than you and I can have together, that doesn't mean that you have to neglect your own worries and fears. I would say address them immediately. I saw people actually offering help for free, so take use of that. Find a therapist. You can do it with a coach. I would definitely open up my line for if you want to talk about it, right? The second thing that I said is, if you can do something, and a lot of people are super creative with it, it kind of helps you. It gives you a little bit back control. It's not the reason why you do it. I do understand that you do it out of a good heart. You want to help people, but at the same time, it actually helps you mentally as well. So why not combine these things? If you're not that creative or you're not that person who can do that, then at least go back and do the work that you need to do, because that helps too. And like I said, I'm a dance teacher, among other things, like a life coach. And I definitely did not feel like teaching dance when the news of the war came out. I thought it was silly, it was trivial. Why would we do these things? But then again, it gives other people a lot of joys to dance and to joy, not joys, but joy to dance. And maybe it's just for an hour to get them distracted. Now, what can you do more? It's do the normal things, meditate, exercise. It could be dance, right? And it does help. What else can you do? Are there things that you maybe are doing that actually is putting more stress on you than that's necessary? Well, following the news is not always helpful, but I am not a big news follower, but in these times I am. So yeah, that definitely adds some to some of the stress level. So maybe you should be a little bit careful with that. Does that make you a bad person if you don't, if you're not caught up with all the details that's going on? I don't think so, to be honest. If the news give you a lot of stress and anxiety, then just be careful with that. Don't feel bad about it, because I know if you come in a bar, if you go to the sports club, if you go to the fitness, if you go to your yoga club, everyone is talking about it. And it could feel like a pressure for you to be able to talk about it too and know some facts as well. And maybe you don't, and maybe you don't want to, and don't feel bad about that at all, right? That doesn't mean that you're naive. If you know from yourself that these, images that you see, that could be very graphical, add some anxiety to you, then don't do that. And that brings me to the topic of children as well. Do we always need to expose them to all these things? Now, I'm a parent. My kids are pretty, they are at a level that they can handle these things, or maybe not. So to be aware of that as well. And if you live in a house with other people, and some people cannot follow the news like you do, then that's okay too. And maybe they feel that you talk about it too much, then that's okay too. Then we talk about social media, and it's a great thing, social media, in many aspects. And if you have been following me here at the place, then you also know that I see a lot of downside of social media as well. And if it comes to gathering news of around what's going on in Ukraine, in Russia, then I see both the same things. I see the positive and the negative. On one hand, it's kind of awesome that someone in the field can actually show what's going on with that person. It makes us feel very personally connected. And this is my personal fear. You can hate me for it or not, but I'm a little bit afraid that, we can go and run only with those super personal stories and maybe through that miss the facts. What helps me is to get some sort of an objective overview of what's really going on. That might not help you, but it helps me. So I put in a lot of effort, maybe not a lot, but I put at least some effort in to find the facts, and we don't know the facts nowadays, right? What I think is true, someone else might say is not true at all, right? So be a little bit careful with that. But here's the thing: if you're not affected by what I just painted for you, anxiety and fear, then we still, I think, and strange as that is, in the last couple of weeks of the place, we talked about it. We talked about, can we handle freedom? We talked about, how do we sharpen our opinion? How open minded are we? It is very tempting to go in one direction with our mind and opinion. I would, help you later on if you try to find a balance, try to find also, listen also to opinions that are maybe not immediately in line with your own opinion. Because this is what actually also only put what I call oil to the fire, if we all go in the same direction without actually really know what's going on, right? There's politics in this way too much already, right? It is often politicians, or at least people that believe they are politicians, who cause these type of wars. Now, sorry, there are a lot of good politicians out there as you as well, and I believe in voting, but unfortunately, it is in the hands of world leaders that we either chose to have or not, that are actually have a tremendous impact of what's going on in our lives. So we need to move on with this, and we need to sharpen our mind of what our opinions was in the past. Even the opinions of our past presidents, if you think about Mr. Putin, they were questionable now, but at the time maybe it was a good thing to make a friendship with Mr. Putin. I don't know, in the time of George Bush Jr., right? And later on, he maybe revealed his true face already. Who knows? Why didn't we call him out? We can have all these questions, right? Why didn't we act before? What kind of government do we have that they let it go? Again, that quickly raises to your anxiety level. I know if I became a U.S. citizen a while ago, and I know we don't live in a perfect world, and I came from the Netherlands. That's not a perfect world either. They're both democracies, and they're slightly different democracies. But you can already see that the alternative of a true democracy is, most of the time not so really good. I don't think that we live in a perfect democracy at all. I see this country getting at times more divided than I like to see. So maybe there's also a good time to think about these things and come together, because there's only one thing that probably helps us to overcome these problems. If we come together, and I've been talking about this a lot, right? If we, and Jimi Hendrix said it so beautiful, right? If the love, if the how did he say it? If the power of love is greater than the love for power, that's when we can have true peace. So let me say that again. Jimi Hendrix said it. If the power of love is greater than the love for power, then maybe we have finally a true peace. But if we see ourselves still as separate countries and separate little communities that need to fight over a turf or something else, we'll never have global peace. And if you're a Christian, you know that there is no such thing as global peace, but that doesn't mean that we should not strive for it, right? So I hope that doesn't escalate anything further than where it's going right now. I hope that it is, again, a great warning for us that if we go heading this way, then we haven't evolved at all with all the technology that we have and the way that I can actually talk now to everyone in the world, which we could not do in the war in 1940-45. But if we don't take this as a huge warning that we're actually running in the wrong direction, then I don't know what to do either, right? It's probably not my place to point it out, but I wanted to point it out anyhow. Let me, circle back a little bit why I made this special episode of The Place. People will get in problems mentally. Don't be ashamed if you are. Yeah, some people are more dire than you are, but that doesn't mean that you don't need the care that you deserve. So don't be afraid to reach out, or reach out to the people that you trust. Immediately act upon it. I know I did. And then listen back to this. Maybe there are a couple of other things that you can use to help ourselves and each other in this situation. I wish you all peace and love. And see you next time on The Place, right? Hopefully we have a better episode than this one. All right, this was Sean at The Place. Next time, 12 o'clock, Dallas time, about 7 o'clock p.m. in the Netherlands, and all the other countries, find out where you are, and then you can match up. If you want to be in the after party, well, the after party is maybe not such a good word this time, but if you want to be part of my after talk, link to the Zoom, send me a message if you don't know where that Zoom link is. And if not, then I'll hope to see you next week, and maybe we can switch back to a normal The Place. This was Shah, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.